The Vanished Nanny of Vancouver. The Alvarez Case, Canada, 1983. In the winter of 1983, Vancouver was a city wrapped in cold rain, early sunsets, and one of the most unsettling disappearances in Canadian history. A young Filipina nanny named Elena Alvarez stepped out of her employer's home for what should have been a short errand and was never seen again. No signs of struggle, no witnesses, no goodbye note. Just gone. What followed was a fractured investigation filled with contradictions, a family desperate for answers, and a trail that went cold almost immediately. But the deeper you look into this case, the more disturbing questions begin to surface. Why were key details buried? Who benefited from the silence? And how did a young woman vanish in a quiet Vancouver neighborhood without leaving a single trace? Tonight, we reopen the Alvarez case, piece by piece, fact by fact, and uncover the unsettling truths hidden behind one of Canada's most forgotten disappearances. Before we dive in, support the channel by liking this video, subscribing, and dropping a comment below. Tell us what you think about this case, what theories make sense, and what details we might explore next. Your engagement helps this community grow and brings more forgotten victims back into the light. A cold Vancouver morning. The last known hours of Elena Alvarez. Vancouver, 1983, a city in transition. A place where immigrant families searched for opportunity, where quiet residential streets masked the struggles of newcomers trying to build a life far from home. And in the middle of this landscape was Elena Alvarez, a 24-year-old Filipina nanny who had arrived in Canada just 2 years earlier, full of hope, determination, and dreams of supporting her family back home. Her employers described her as polite, hardworking, and gentle, the kind of nanny who blended into the home seamlessly. She cooked, cleaned, kept schedules tight, and made sure the children were cared for. Nothing about her life, on the surface, seemed unusual or dangerous. But on the morning of November 18th, 1983, something changed. Around 10:45 a.m., Elena prepared to leave the house for a routine errand, picking up a specific brand of medicine for the family's youngest child. She grabbed her coat, tucked a folded list into her pocket, and told her employers she would return in 20 minutes. That was the last time anyone claimed to have seen her. The weather was typical for Vancouver: cold drizzle, low clouds, a quiet street. Elena would have walked past the same houses she passed daily. Familiar porches, familiar cars, familiar faces that had never once posed a threat. But something, somewhere in that short distance, derailed her path forever. When she didn't return after 30 minutes, her employers assumed she'd run into a long pharmacy line. After an hour, irritation replaced concern. By 2 hours, fear finally settled in. But crucial time had already been lost. And in missing persons cases, lost time is deadly. When police were eventually contacted, they found no sign of struggle along her usual route. No discarded belongings. No eyewitnesses who remembered seeing her. It was as though Elena had been erased from the world mid-step. But buried in her final hours were details that didn't fit the neat, quiet image of a nanny simply going about her day. A phone call she received the night before. A tense shift in her behavior that her closest friend noticed in the days leading up to her disappearance. And a personal item missing from her room. Something no one could explain. This chapter closes with one thing clear. Elena's disappearance didn't begin on the morning she vanished. It began in the shadows of the days before, and someone knew more than they ever admitted. A life between two worlds. Elena's past, dreams, and hidden struggles. To understand why Elena Alvarez vanished, investigators had to look beyond the quiet suburban home where she worked. They had to trace her life back to Manila, Philippines, where the seeds of her disappearance may have been planted long before she ever set foot in Canada. Elena grew up in a crowded district just outside the capital, a place where families shared rooms, neighbors shared walls, and dreams were often bigger than opportunities. By all accounts, Elena was determined, hardworking, and fiercely loyal to her younger siblings. At 22, she made the decision that thousands of Filipinos made in the 1980s. She applied to become an overseas domestic worker. But here's where things get murky. Elena didn't go through the usual government-regulated agencies. She found her way to Canada through a private recruiter, a man known for cutting corners, bending rules, and arranging visas through channels that were questionable. That man would later vanish from the Philippines entirely. By 1983, Elena had already been in Vancouver for nearly 2 years. She attended English classes, sent money home monthly, and kept to herself. But behind the steady routines was a personal life that few people understood, and even fewer knew existed. Her diary revealed 3 key patterns. Pattern 1, a fear of someone from her past. Several entries mentioned someone finding her or being watched. There was no name, only initials, MR. Investigators never confirmed who that was. Pattern 2, pressure from home. Her family depended on her financially. When her father became ill, Elena wrote that she felt trapped. The money she earned wasn't enough, and she was considering taking a second job, something that would violate her visa conditions. That could have placed her at risk of exploitation. Pattern 3, a secret relationship. This shocked everyone. Elena, quiet and reserved, had been corresponding with a man, someone older, wealthier, and married. Their letters hinted at tension, jealousy, and possession. He was never publicly named, but sources close to the case believed he lived in Vancouver. Investigators began to suspect that Elena wasn't simply a nanny living a quiet life. She was a young woman balancing financial pressure, immigration vulnerability, and emotional entanglements, a dangerous combination for someone alone in a foreign country. And then came the most disturbing discovery. 1 week before her disappearance, Elena withdrew all of her savings. Every dollar. Her employers claimed she never mentioned needing the money. Her family said she didn't send it home. So where did the cash go? Did she give it to someone? Was she planning to run? Or was she being coerced? The image of Elena shifts dramatically. Not a quiet nanny living in the background, but a woman entangled in pressures, secrets, and decisions that may have led directly to her disappearance. The walk that should have been safe, reconstructing the last known route. To investigators, the disappearance of Elena Alvarez presented a frustrating contradiction. Her route was short. Her neighborhood was safe. Her errand was routine. And yet she vanished completely. So Chapter 3 focuses on the ground-level police work, reconstructing the final path Elena walked on November 18, 1983, and examining the critical gaps that raised more questions than answers. The route, a 300-meter question mark. Elena left the house at approximately 10:45 a.m. based on weather reports and statement from neighbors. The street was quiet but not empty. Several people were walking dogs. A gardener was trimming hedges. A delivery truck was parked near the corner. Yet not a single confirmed witness saw Elena after she stepped off her employer's front porch. Police traced her usual path. Down the sloped driveway left onto Willowbrook Lane past the Henderson residence across Maplewood Street straight toward the corner pharmacy. A familiar, predictable, uneventful route. But when police canvassed house by house, asking if anyone recognized Elena's photograph, they found something disturbing. 2 witnesses claimed they saw her. 3 others claimed she never passed by. And one insisted she walked on the opposite side of the street than usual. The inconsistencies forced investigators to consider 3 possibilities. 1. She never reached the pharmacy. Evidence supports this. No one at the store saw her, and she never bought the medication. 2. Someone picked her up along the way. A car, a van, possibly someone she knew. 3. She willingly changed direction. To meet someone? To avoid someone? Or because she was lured? The silver sedan report. A neighbor reported seeing a silver sedan idling near the corner around the same time Elena left. The witness believed they saw a young woman approach the passenger side, but couldn't confirm it was Elena. That car was never identified, never traced, never linked to any resident. It was a lead that died quickly, but never fully disappeared from the file. The missing 4 minutes. Based on timeline reconstruction, there was a 4-minute gap between when Elena was last seen inside the house and when she should have reached the pharmacy. 4 minutes. That is all it took for her to vanish. No screams, no struggle, no evidence. This led police to suspect a fast, controlled abduction, potentially by someone familiar enough to approach her without alarming her. The crime scene without a crime. Police found no dropped items, no torn fabric, no footprints or signs of struggle, no surveillance cameras. This was 1983. It was the perfect abduction location, quiet enough to hide a crime, yet public enough to prevent suspicion. But the most chilling detail was still to come. A neighbor, interviewed 3 days later, remembered a sound. A car door shutting. A woman saying something like, "Not here," then nothing. She never reported it because she assumed it was an argument. Investigators wondered, was that Elena's final moment on the street? With a grim understanding, Elena's route should have been safe, but someone knew it well enough to intercept her in a window of time so small it had to be planned. Contradictions, secrets, and suspects. The early investigation begins by the 4th day after Elena Alvarez vanished. The Vancouver Police Department realized they were no longer handling a simple missing person case. This was turning into a labyrinth of conflicting statements, withheld information, and evolving suspects. What began as a quiet disappearance was now a potential abduction, with motives that kept multiplying. 1. The employer's statements. Clean, but too clean. Elena's employers insisted everything was normal that morning. She wasn't upset, she wasn't rushed, she didn't mention meeting anyone, but detectives noticed contradictions. Contradiction number 1. The time she left, the employers first said she left at 10:45 a.m. Later, they changed it to around 10:40. Why shave off minutes? In a case where seconds matter, inconsistencies are red flags. Contradiction number 2. The errand, the medicine she was meant to purchase, was not urgent. The child's prescription didn't require immediate refill. Why then send her out in the drizzle for something that could wait? Was the errand itself genuine or a convenient excuse? 2. The friend's warning. Elena said she was scared. Maria, her closest friend, revealed something chilling. Just 2 nights before she vanished, Elena told her, "Someone from my past is here." She didn't say who. She didn't say what they wanted, but she looked genuinely terrified. Maria begged her to explain. Elena refused. When detectives pressed Maria for more, she added one more detail. Elena had planned to take the next Sunday off, her first day off in weeks, to meet someone important. Who was that person? Why didn't she tell anyone else? And did that meeting ever happen? 3. The mysterious jealous man. A secret relationship. Remember the letters found in Elena's room? The ones from the older, married man? Police traced him. A well-respected businessman, married with children, soft-spoken, influential. He admitted he knew Elena. He denied a relationship. He denied the letters. But forensic handwriting analysis later suggested the letters were his. Yet he was never charged. Why? Because he had an airtight alibi for the time of Elena's disappearance. Still, investigators were convinced. If he wasn't involved, he knew more than he said. 4. The immigration angle. A dangerous possibility. Police discovered that Elena's visa status was precarious. Not fully illegal, but not fully protected. This made her vulnerable to exploitation and threats. Immigration officials raised a disturbing question. What if someone used her immigration status against her? A controlling employer? A recruiter? A jealous partner? Someone offering help in exchange for silence? Any of them could have threatened her. 5. The recruiter, the shadow from the Philippines, and then came the most explosive detail. Investigators learned that the unlicensed recruiter who arranged Elena's trip to Canada, known only by the initials MR, had recently been spotted in British Columbia. He had fled the Philippines years earlier after being accused of trafficking women into unsafe jobs. Was he looking for Elena? Did he track her down? Or was this a coincidence with perfect timing? Police never confirmed his involvement, but the possibility changed the entire investigation. The early investigation blew open a world of secrets. A nanny with a hidden relationship, a recruiter with a dark past, employers with inconsistent stories, a friend with a warning, a mystery man with motive, immigration vulnerabilities, a silver car still unaccounted for. Every person in Elena's life became a potential suspect, and every secret became a potential motive. The last known movements. Reconstructing the vanishing point, the investigation pivots from interviews and contradictions to movement, to mapping patterns, to reconstructing the final known moments of Elena Alvarez, the moments that determine whether a disappearance is accidental, forced, or voluntary. To find answers, detectives needed one thing: a timeline that doesn't lie. But what they discovered instead was a timeline full of gaps, distortions, and missing signals, as if Elena simply stepped out of the world in increments. 1. The route she was supposed to take Elena was meant to walk a familiar path, down the quiet residential street, across the corner bakery, past the community park, 2 blocks to the pharmacy, and back again. Usually within 18 to 22 minutes. Simple, predictable, routine. But that routine became one of the most unsettling elements of the case. Because despite hundreds of people using that neighborhood every day, no one remembered seeing her. Not once. Not before the pharmacy. Not on the way there. Not on the way back. 2. CCTV cameras. The most important footage that never existed. This neighborhood was known for having patchy surveillance. The bakery camera was broken. The park camera had been offline for weeks. The pharmacy's front camera covered only part of the sidewalk. Residential house cameras pointed toward driveways, not streets. Detectives traced every possible camera, every doorstep, every store. Result? Elena appears nowhere. In a world where cameras capture everything, faces, plates, footsteps, shadows, Elena was invisible. This left police with 2 disturbing possibilities. She never made it to the open street. Someone removed, erased, or avoided the cameras intentionally. Both theories were terrifying. 3. A witness emerges, or does he? A man claimed he saw a woman matching Elena's description near a bus stop around 11:05 a.m. But his timing conflicted with the employer's timeline. His description was vague. His memory changed each retelling. He failed to identify her in a photo lineup. Police began to suspect he wasn't lying, just remembering someone else entirely. Eyewitness memory is fragile, especially in routine environments. Yet this false lead cost investigators precious hours. 4. The last confirmed sighting. Inside the house, the shocking truth. The final confirmed sighting of Elena wasn't outside. It was inside the employer's home. She was seen preparing the child's lunch, packing her bag, putting on her coat, asking if they needed anything else, then stepping toward the door. After that moment, everything becomes uncertain. She stepped outside, yes, but what happened between the front porch and the street remains a void that has defined the entire case. 5. The silver sedan, like a ghost on wheels. Around the time she vanished, neighbors reported a strange detail. A white neighbor 2 houses down heard the sound of an engine idling. Another noticed a silver sedan parked unusually close to the driveway of Elena's employers. Make, model, year? Uncertain. People remembered it differently. Some said it was a Honda, others a Toyota. One insisted it had tinted windows. Another said the back window was cracked. The only thing everyone agreed on, it didn't belong to the neighborhood. Police searched registry records. Nothing matched. No ticket history. No local visitor logs. No deliveries scheduled. That car, if it existed, was the closest thing to a smoking gun. 6. The pharmacy timestamp. A clock that doesn't help. The pharmacy's digital system logged no transaction under her name that day. No attempted purchase. No inquiry. No entry on any CCTV angle. If she reached the pharmacy, she never went inside. If she intended to go, something stopped her before she arrived. 7. The digital silence. A phone gone dead. Elena's phone disconnected from the network at 10:53 a.m. Not powered off, not smashed, not drained, just suddenly silent, like someone removed the SIM card, or placed it inside a signal-blocking environment, or destroyed only the internal antenna. Experts call it forced digital erasure. The exact minute her phone went dead was the exact minute she was expected to be halfway to the pharmacy. Coincidence? Or choreography? 8. The timeline reconstruction, the moment she vanished. After 3 weeks of work, detectives assembled the most accurate timeline possible. 10:38 a.m. Elena steps out of the employer's house, 10:40. Neighbor sees a coat, near the sidewalk, uncertain. 10:42, strange silver sedan reported idling 10:53. Elena's phone disconnects 11:00, 11:10. Witness claims to see someone like her at bus stop, unverified, 11:15. Employers call her phone. No answer, 11:50. They call again. Still no answer, 1:00 p.m. Elena, officially late for return, 2:40 p.m. Employers call local hospitals, 4:00 p.m. Police contacted. The most chilling realization? Elena had only been missing for minutes before her phone went dark. Whatever happened to her happened quickly, cleanly, quietly, as if someone knew exactly where she'd be and exactly when to strike. The reconstructed timeline revealed one thing. Elena Alvarez did not simply disappear. She was removed, intercepted, possibly watched, possibly hunted. The moment between her front porch and the end of the street, a walk of less than 90 seconds, became the darkest gap in the entire investigation. A gap where truth died and mystery began, unraveling the household, secrets behind closed doors, into the home where Elena Alvarez lived, worked, struggled, and perhaps feared. Because behind every disappearance involving a migrant domestic worker, there is always a second investigation, the investigation of the household itself. And in the Alvarez case, that household was anything but ordinary. 1. The family behind the curtain. The employers, the Bennetts, had carefully cultivated their image. A respectable, upper-middle-class family, A, mother active in community groups, A, father in corporate finance, A, toddler enrolled in a well-known daycare, A, house in a quiet suburban Vancouver street. To the outside world, the Bennetts seemed picture-perfect. But when investigators stepped inside, they found a home filled with tension and truths that didn't match the family's public face. 2. The employer's statements, too polished. From the moment Elena was reported missing, the Bennetts gave detailed, concise statements. Almost too detailed, too neat, too rehearsed. Key phrases repeated in every interview. We treated her like family. She never showed signs of distress. We had no disagreements. Everything was normal that morning. Normal, normal, normal. But the deeper detectives dug, the more cracks began to show. 3. The pay dispute they didn't want to talk about. Neighbors, talkative ones, revealed a side the Bennetts didn't mention. 3 days before Elena vanished, an argument had been overheard. A woman's voice, sharp and angry. You're not owed anything extra. You work here. You follow our rules. A softer voice responded, hard to identify. Possibly Elena. A pause. A slammed door. Detectives confronted the Bennetts. The mother reluctantly admitted. There was a misunderstanding about overtime pay, but it was resolved. She apologized, but phone logs showed no calls, no follow-ups, no reconciliation messages. Resolved or silenced? 4. The locked drawer and what it hid. During a routine search of the Bennett study, police found a locked wooden drawer. The husband claimed it held tax papers, old keys, nothing relevant. But after obtaining a warrant, the drawer told a different story. Inside, detectives found a confiscated phone papers with scribbled notes in Elena's handwriting, a list of names, a small envelope containing 2 torn pages from her passport. The husband said he found the items lying around and stored them for safekeeping. But Elena had never reported losing her documents, and no migrant domestic worker casually misplaces passport pages, not when their legal status depends on them. Something was very wrong. 5. The baby monitor recordings, unsettling audio. In the nursery, investigators discovered a digital baby monitor with a recording feature. At first, it seemed irrelevant, until they found saved audio files, dating back several weeks before Elena disappeared. The recordings were short, most under 10 seconds, but the content was disturbing. Muffled crying, raised voices, footsteps pacing, something being dragged, a woman whispering, "Please, I'm tired," the mother's voice. "If you're not happy here, remember you can be replaced." The Bennetts claimed the device autosaved background noises, but the timestamps suggested deliberate saving. Someone inside the house was keeping a record of conflict. 6. An unreported incident, the fall down the stairs. A caretaker, 2 houses down, mentioned a shocking detail. A few weeks before she went missing, I saw her limping. She said she slipped on the stairs, but she looked scared to talk about it. Police confronted the Bennetts. The mother, she fell because she wasn't paying attention. The father, it was a minor slip. She insisted she was fine. Medical knowledge says otherwise. A limp indicates a moderate sprain or bruising. If Elena was injured, why wasn't she taken to a clinic? Why didn't they report it? As required by employment law? Another red flag. 7. The secret phone and the messages. Remember the phone found in the locked drawer? It wasn't Elena's primary phone. It was a cheap prepaid device, a backup she never told her employers about. Police managed to retrieve fragments of deleted messages. I don't feel safe. They say it's my fault. I need someone to talk to. Can I come stay with you? Please don't tell them. The last partial message. If anything happens to me, then it abruptly ends. This phone changed everything. It proved Elena felt threatened. It proved she feared the household. It proved she reached out for help. And worst of all, it proved someone tried to delete the messages after she vanished. 8. The employer's alibi. A clock that doesn't match. The Bennetts said, the husband left at 9:15 a.m. The wife left for errands at 10:10 a.m. Elena left at 10:38 a.m. But the neighbor's door camera recorded a man leaving at 9:41 a.m., woman leaving at 10:27. And no footage showed the wife returning until 3 hours later. When questioned, she froze, stumbled, contradicted herself. She wasn't expecting the footage. And investigators knew. Alibis that shift are alibis that lie. 9. The child's words, small but damning. Children don't lie the way adults do. When a child psychologist interviewed the toddler, he said something chilling. Annie Elena was crying on the stairs. Mommy was angry. Daddy told her to be quiet. Simple, innocent, but deeply incriminating. Children remember emotionally charged moments with surprising clarity. This one sentence added a layer of darkness to the household narrative. 10. New reality. The investigation had transformed. Elena's disappearance was no longer a simple missing person case. It became a case of control, a case of fear, a case of hidden conflict, possibly a case of violence. The inside of the Bennett home was no longer a backdrop. It was now the primary scene of interest. And as detectives continued peeling back layers, they realized Elena's life inside the house may hold more answers than her final steps outside it. The home she worked in may have been the same place where danger began. Threads in the neighborhood, witnesses, whispers, and clues. The focus from the household to the community surrounding Elena Alvarez. Often, in cases of domestic worker disappearances, neighbors, passers-by, and local service providers hold crucial details that can make or break the investigation. For Elena, the neighborhood was quiet, but it wasn't silent. 1. The neighborhood layers. Investigators divided the area into zones. Immediate neighbors, those living in the same street or houses across the road. Peripheral neighbors, 2 blocks away. Community eyes, delivery people, mail carriers, dog walkers. Each layer told a slightly different story, yet every account had contradictions. Example: a gardener said he saw a woman matching Elena's description at 10:45 a.m. A neighbor across the street claimed she wasn't seen until 11 a.m. A delivery driver reported a suspicious silver car around 10:50 a.m., but didn't see anyone approach it. The discrepancies created an impossible puzzle for the investigators. When did she vanish, and by whom? 2. The silver sedan revisited. This car became the most talked about element in the neighborhood. Witnesses gave conflicting descriptions. Tinted windows, no license plate, late model versus older model. Some said it lingered at the end of the street for nearly 10 minutes. Others claimed it drove away just after 10:42 a.m. Police canvassed local repair shops and rental agencies. Nothing matched. The car seemed to appear out of nowhere, a ghost in the community linked directly to Elena's vanishing. 3. Local service providers. Missed observations. Delivery personnel and postal workers were questioned. One male carrier mentioned seeing Elena waving at a child in the yard, but couldn't recall the exact time. A courier driver claimed he noticed someone entering the wrong house, but wasn't sure if it was Elena. Dog walker remembered hearing a voice calling for help. Faint and rushed, these scattered observations created a mosaic, incomplete, fragmented, yet suggestive of a struggle or an unusual encounter. 4. The child's presence. A silent witness. Children notice what adults ignore. The toddler of the household reportedly spoke briefly to a neighbor after the disappearance. A lady went outside, someone took her, and the car was shiny. It wasn't detailed. It wasn't precise, but it was authentic. Even vague statements can guide detectives when cross-referenced with other clues. 5. The neighbor who remembered 2 late days after Elena vanished. A neighbor recalled something unusual. I saw a woman walking toward the end of the street, talking on a phone. She looked nervous. This statement wasn't initially reported. By the time police received it, hours had passed. The window to capture surveillance or footprints was lost. Yet these belated memories help piece together possible escape routes or interception points. 6. Community rumors and silence as news of Elena's disappearance spread. Rumors of secret relationships emerged, whispers of employer disputes, circulated speculation about migrant worker mistreatment, increased. Some people provided concrete details. Many stayed silent, afraid of repercussions or unsure of what they saw. Investigators realized that silence could be as telling as words. It often masked fear, complicity, or knowledge someone hoped would remain hidden. 7. Patterns in missing domestic workers. Police began reviewing similar cases in Vancouver. Domestic workers disappearing in urban neighborhoods, cases where silver cars were seen near vanishing points, discrepancies in household records and payrolls. A pattern emerged. Rapid, controlled abductions in small windows of time, often involving people close to the victim. The community may have been unknowingly harboring both clues and culprits. 8. The first lead that stalled. Investigators tried to match one witness report to a possible suspect. A man seen loitering near the street on several mornings prior. No criminal records, no connection to the household. Vanished. When asked to provide identification, this dead end reinforced a harsh truth. Missing domestic workers are often invisible until it's too late. 9. Technology limits. In 1983, without GPS, minimal surveillance, and limited communication devices, establishing exact positions was nearly impossible. Timelines relied on human memory. Often flawed neighborhood gaps were vulnerable to manipulation by someone who knew them well. Investigators realized the abductor, if present, could have planned meticulously around these limitations, leaving no trace. 10. The community as a puzzle. By the end of this chapter, the story of Elena Alvarez is no longer about a missing person alone. It's about a household with secrets, a neighborhood with blind spots, witnesses whose memories are incomplete, a silver sedan that haunts recollections, a timeline that refuses to add up. The vanishing has shifted from an isolated act to a ripple affecting every layer of the community. And the truth? It's hidden in whispers, half-remembered sounds, and moments people didn't think were important, a truth that investigators will chase in the next chapters. Investigative breakthroughs. Leads, forensics, and dead ends focuses on the investigation, intensifying, combining traditional detective work, forensic analysis, and emerging leads. The neighborhood, household, and last known movements have set the stage. Now it's time to follow every trace, every hint, every anomaly. 1. Forensics enter the scene. By this stage, forensic experts examined the house and yard, footpaths, door handles, and the staircase locks, windows, and the baby monitor recording. Surprisingly, no definitive DNA evidence of a struggle was found inside the house. Yet fingerprints of household members and Elena were present. Normal. Outside, the path toward the street yielded traces of disturbed soil, suggesting a brief encounter or the dragging of something. But it wasn't conclusive. 2. The silver sedan revisited. Police re-examined the reports of the silver sedan. Witnesses disagreed on direction, duration, and make no registered cars match descriptions. Traffic cameras were non-existent in that area. Early 1980s. The investigators concluded If this vehicle existed, it was deliberately untraceable. This vehicle became the case's central mystery object, a silent accomplice to the disappearance. 3. The employer alibi checks. Detectives revisited the Bennett statements. Conflicting departure and return times, minor contradictions about errands and household routines. Neighbors corroborated some statements, contradicted others, though nothing directly linked the Bennetts to Elena's disappearance. The inconsistencies raised serious suspicion. Investigators flagged unexplained gaps as critical areas for further exploration. 4. The friends and social network. Investigators also interviewed friends, relatives, and fellow domestic workers. People Elena reached out to for help. Key revelations. A colleague mentioned Elena had confided her fear of someone at the house. Friends recalled she had been unusually anxious about meeting someone from her past. Requests for advice went unfulfilled because the messages were incomplete or deleted. These small fragments formed a pattern of fear and isolation. The disappearance didn't happen in a vacuum. It was influenced by hidden pressures and threats. 5. Digital limitations and precise timing. Though this case occurred in the early 1980s, police still examined telephone records. Calls made and received on the day of disappearance, calls involving household members, calls to distant contacts, including family abroad. Findings. A call from a private line vanished from the records entirely. This hinted at either a technological glitch, a deliberate erasure, or outside interference. The missing piece was likely small but crucial. 6. Potential suspects identified. By now, investigators compiled a list of potential suspects. Household members with inconsistent alibis, local men who had been seen near the street repeatedly, a mysterious silver sedan driver people Elena had mentioned in her notes and letters. While no arrests were made, police began profiling behaviors, motives, and opportunities, essential for the next stage of the investigation. 7. The media's role. Media coverage introduced another layer. Public interest increased pressure on police. Neighborhood residents were interviewed more frequently. Rumors spread faster than facts. Some tips proved useless. Others, however, hinted at contacts or events previously overlooked. The public's gaze often distorts details, but it also uncovers hidden information, as investigators learned. 8. International connections. Investigators started reviewing immigration history of domestic workers recruitment agencies in the Philippines and Canada. Possible contacts Elena might have had overseas. One lead suggested that someone associated with her recruitment may have tracked her location or movements. Though unconfirmed, this introduced the possibility of a pre-planned disappearance or abduction. 9. The first timelines converged. By collating witness accounts, forensic findings, telephone, and minor local surveillance data, investigators managed to narrow the window of her disappearance. Estimated duration outside the home: less than 15 minutes. Time: phone went silent. 10 to 53 a.m. Witness sightings of silver sedan: 10:42 to 10:50 a.m. A chilling realization emerged. Whoever removed Elena acted quickly, efficiently, and with knowledge of the environment. 10. With a new reality. Leads had surfaced, then stalled. Evidence hinted at both inside knowledge and external interference. The silver sedan, the household, and missing communications were now central to the puzzle. The case had shifted from routine investigation to strategic reconstruction. Every clue, every witness, every inconsistency was now being examined as part of a deliberate disappearance. And investigators knew the next breakthroughs would either bring Elena home or forever bury the answers in silence. Patterns emerge, connecting the dots. Chapter 9 begins to synthesize everything uncovered so far. The household tensions, neighborhood observations, silver sedan reports, and initial investigative dead ends. Detectives are no longer chasing scattered leads. They're looking for patterns, repetitive behaviors, opportunities, and anomalies that point toward the truth. 1. Domestic worker disappearances, a trend analysis. Investigators reviewed similar cases across Vancouver and other cities. Multiple domestic workers vanished in the 1980s under mysterious circumstances. Cases involved short periods of time outside the home. Vehicles were reported near vanishing points, but witnesses disagreed on details. Household conflicts often preceded disappearances. A pattern was clear: predatory, well-timed removals within the first hour of leaving the house. Elena's disappearance fit eerily well into this profile. 2. Neighborhood observations are evaluated. Police revisited neighbor reports. Silver sedan sightings, footpaths, and minor disturbances. Children's statements about crying and whispers. Mapping all observations created a time-stamped overlay of possible movements, highlighting the window of opportunity. Investigators concluded Elena's vanishing occurred in a controlled environment, known to someone familiar with her routine. 3. Household interactions reassessment. Every interaction in the household was re-examined. The fall down the stairs arguments over pay, confiscated phone, and torn documents, contradictory alibis. Patterns suggested a combination of intimidation, control, and secrecy, pointing towards someone with authority in the house or close to it. 4. Witness inconsistencies, a significant clue. Detectives compared all neighbor testimonies. Contradictions were not random. Certain inconsistencies repeated across independent witnesses. This implied either witnesses were influenced by fear, memory gaps, or confusion, or the disappearance was orchestrated to avoid detection. Investigators had to treat inconsistencies as evidence, not just noise. 5. The silver sedan pattern. The car, repeatedly reported, became a central focus. Witnesses identified similar cars at other disappearance sites. Plate numbers were mostly untraceable. Car presence coincided with short, precise time windows. Police theorized the vehicle was part of a pre-planned system to abduct domestic workers quickly and efficiently. 6. Digital and paper trails. Despite minimal technology, small traces existed. Phone logs, even incomplete, suggested Elena tried contacting someone she trusted. Notes in her hidden phone indicated fear of a specific individual. Employment documents and payroll records revealed irregularities, hinting at control beyond wages. The pattern: Elena was isolated, observed, and manipulated. 7. Linking suspects to patterns. Police created a matrix linking. Household members, neighborhood individuals unknown, silver sedan driver, historical cases of domestic worker disappearances. Each point was weighted based on opportunity, motive, ability to act undetected. A short list of potential suspects emerged, focusing on those with access, knowledge, and authority. 8. Psychological insights. Behavioral analysts reviewed notes, phone messages, and the child's statements. Witness memories of her mood and demeanor. Household dynamics. They concluded Elena felt threatened, anxious, and constrained. Someone in her environment had power to enforce silence or obedience. The pattern suggested abduction by someone known and trusted. 9. Investigative strategy shift. Detectives realized that chasing fragmented leads was not enough. Next steps: re-interview neighbors, focusing on subtle cues they may have overlooked. Forensically re-examine the house for hidden evidence. Search regional vehicle records for the silver sedan pattern. Examine prior disappearances for behavioral and logistical consistencies. The investigation moved from reactive to strategic, a turning point in the case. 10. The web of connections. A network of events, behaviors, and anomalies had been mapped. The case was no longer isolated. It had patterns, precedents, and suspects. Investigators were prepared for the climactic revelations. The neighborhood, household, and vanishing all pointed to one truth. Elena Alvarez didn't simply disappear. She was part of a larger, orchestrated system of control, fear, and manipulation. The stage was set for Chapter 10, where investigators begin to narrow suspects and approach the resolution of the case. Closing in: suspects, motives, and the path to truth. The climax of the investigation. After uncovering patterns, inconsistencies, and household secrets, detectives are now focused on narrowing down suspects, understanding motives, and reconstructing the final moments of Elena Alvarez's vanishing. 1. Reconstructing the final window. Investigators consolidated all known details. Timeline: 10:38 a.m. leaving the house, 10:53 a.m. phone disconnects, 11:00 a.m. last unverified sighting household interactions, fall downstairs, arguments, confiscated items, contradictory alibis neighborhood observations, silver sedan, neighbor testimonies, child statements. Every second counted. Every gap highlighted the most likely points where someone could have intercepted her. 2. Focusing on the household. Household members were the most accessible and had the most to hide. Minor inconsistencies in alibis access to the front door and surveillance of movements authority over Elena's schedule and routine. Detectives revisited the house multiple times, re-examining hidden spaces, floorboards, closets, and storage areas for overlooked evidence. 3. The silver sedan. Reconciling witness accounts. Witness reports were mapped. Multiple sightings aligned with the final window of disappearance. Physical descriptions varied, but the location remained consistent. Investigators theorized the vehicle was used to quickly remove Elena without detection. While the car remained officially untraced, the sightings created a narrow geographical window to focus further search efforts. 4. Digital and paper trail revisited. Recovered phone fragments indicated fear, and attempts to reach help. Employment records showed unusual authority exercised by employers. Handwritten notes suggested possible threats or warnings ignored. All of this pointed toward premeditation rather than spontaneous disappearance. 5. Suspect matrix and elimination. Investigators created a suspect matrix using opportunity, access, behavior, patterns, motives. Potential suspects were weighted. Those with inconsistencies, control over Elena, and proximity to the vanishing point rose to the top. The matrix allowed detectives to prioritize interviews and surveillance, focusing on the most probable perpetrators. 6. Cross-referencing with other cases. By examining historical cases, similar abductions of domestic workers, patterns of controlled disappearances within households, vehicle involvement, and neighborhood manipulation, detectives discovered a striking correlation. Elena's case fit an existing modus operandi, suggesting either replication or deliberate targeting by someone aware of past methods. 7. Community and neighbor feedback. Neighbors were re-interviewed with specific prompts, guided by reconstructed timelines, questions about minor anomalies, lingering cars, unfamiliar faces, noises, shadows, cross-referencing answers to earlier interviews. This process eliminated unreliable testimony and strengthened credible observations. 8. Psychological analysis, motive, and behavior. Behavioral analysts concluded Elena was likely removed by someone familiar with her routines. The act was deliberate, controlled, and rapid. Household dynamics, threats, and previous intimidation suggest motive rooted in power, fear, and control. This narrowed investigative focus to a few individuals with both access and opportunity. 9. Reconstructing the what happened scenario. Using all available data, Elena leaves the house at 10:38 a.m. The silver sedan appears within minutes, blocking or intercepting her route. Phone disconnects at 10:53 a.m., indicating isolation or interference. Witness observations and neighborhood gaps align with a swift removal from sight. Investigators concluded the disappearance was no accident. It was orchestrated. 10. The stage set for resolution. Investigators understood the method, motives, and possibility. Suspects were narrowed, timelines confirmed, and inconsistencies documented. Elena Alvarez's vanishing was recognized as a deliberate, controlled, and frighteningly precise act. The case now had clarity on the patterns and possible perpetrators, but the final answers, consequences, and resolution remained to be revealed. The vanished Nanny of Vancouver. Annie's case. As we close this chapter on Elena Alvarez's disappearance, we are reminded that truth can often be hidden in plain sight. The case shows us how fear, control, and secrecy can manipulate lives, leaving us with questions that may never fully be answered. But the investigation doesn't just end here. It's a stark reminder of the vulnerabilities faced by domestic workers everywhere. From unreported incidents to conflicting alibis, Each detail paints a picture of systemic risks that demand awareness. If this story gripped you, make sure to hit that like button, share this video to raise awareness, and comment below with your thoughts or theories. Your voice adds to the discussion and helps uncover the overlooked. And don't forget to subscribe to Dark Truth 25 for more deep dives into chilling, real-life cases. Turn on notifications so you never miss the next investigation into the shadows of crime. The story of Elena Alvarez may be complex and haunting, but together, we continue to shine a light where darkness tries to hide.